Aren't you latching onto this thick thigh? Outside, Si Yihan appeared to stop listening to Qin Shiyuan and entered the courtyard. At this moment, Qin Shiyuan suddenly extended her hand and grabbed Si Yihan's wrist. A loud bang abruptly resounded the next second, and He Lianjue watched Yi Wanwan shatter the table between him and Yi Wanwan with a slap from that slender hand. Damn! How dare you touch my man? I'll fuck you up. After slapping the table, she drew her tang backsword from her waist with a swish and slashed downward, leaving a deep crack on the floor. He Lianjue, Medusa, where was the supposed calmness? Where was the supposed steadiness? Medusa coughed lightly and wiped the sweat from her forehead. As expected, little junior sister was still little junior sister and hadn't changed a single bit. Medusa thought her personality actually changed too. Yi Wanwan was about to charge outside with the backsword on her shoulder when she was clutched by the neck like a chick by He Lianjue. Stop right there and calm down. You'll lower my level too much if you charge out like this. Yi Wanwan was rendered speechless. What did her charging out have to do with lowering his level? Ding! An email suddenly arrived on Yi Wanwan's phone, and she casually clicked it open, only to see the contents being several photos. The location of the photos was actually Yi Lingjuan's front entrance and featured Si Yihan and Qin Shiyuan standing side by side. Due to the positioning and angle, the two of them did look very intimate indeed. There was even a photo of the duo holding hands. If Yi Wanwan hadn't personally witnessed Qin Shiyuan one-sidedly talking to Si Yihan just now, she would have also been deceived by these photos. He Lianjue leaned close and glanced at the email Yi Wanwan received. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Miss Qin is clearly trying to steal your man. This is an outright provocation." "I'm not blind yet," Yi Wanwan retorted. Of course she knew that. He Lianjue pointedly said, "Moreover, she's coming on menacingly and looks like she's determined to win. However, Qin Shiyuan does have the right to be arrogant since countless men have pursued her in the independent state. For example, there's the adopted brother who's competing for the position of family head with your man, In Heng. He's also trying to gain Qin Shiyuan's favor with everything he has. Oh right, she should be a candidate for the best daughter-in-law of all the renowned families. From what I know, In Yuerong couldn't be more satisfied with her." It had to be said that He Lianjue spoke the truth, especially the last part. That was currently the trickiest problem for her and Si Yihan. "Master, just what are you trying to say?" This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh light novel. He Lianjue blinked, his face glowing as he expectantly said, "Ah, little worryless, didn't you say that you respected your grandpa very much and couldn't only acknowledge me as your master? Since it's like that, master won't force you, and master will take a step back. You can be my daughter." Yi Wanwan looked at He Lianjue's seemingly reluctant expression, her face darkened. "Are you dreaming?" He Lianjue looked hurt and exaggeratedly clutched his chest. "Little worryless, how could you say that? Don't you want to be my daughter?" Yi Wanwan glanced at him wordlessly, simply unable to connect him with the martial arts master, Yi Lingjun. "If you want a daughter, don't you know to find a woman to birth one for you?" He Lianjue looked disgusted. "Women are too troublesome. You deserve to be single." Yi Wanwan didn't know where to even begin to roast him. "So you want a ready-made one? Is that it?" "Simply wishful thinking." He Lianjue sighed. "But even if I found a woman to birth one for me, she wouldn't be able to birth someone as cute and likable as you, little worryless." Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. "Don't try this with me." He Lianjue narrowed his eyes and temptingly said, "Don't you want to latch onto this thick thigh of mine? Master is the president of the Arbitration Council. Think about it. If you agree, you'll be the daughter of the Arbitration Council's president." Just a little selfishness as He Lianjue said that, "Latch on fast, latch one fast," was written all over his face. Do you think that's possible? Yi Wanwan was exasperated. He Lianjue seriously acted based on his impulses. Who in the independent state didn't know her identity? Who didn't know Yi Lingjun didn't have a daughter? How could she have suddenly become the daughter of the Arbitration Council's president? With father here, nothing is impossible. If I, Yi Lingjun, said you were my daughter, who in the independent state would dare to doubt it? Yi Wanwan, Father? She still hadn't agreed yet, all right? Wasn't he changing his term of address a bit too fast? However, He Lianjue was right. Yi Lingjun was the equivalent of a saint in the hearts of the independent state's residents. No one would doubt his words. No matter how Yi Wanwan thought about it, she still thought He Lianjue's suggestion was too absurd. Enough talking for now. Don't tell anybody I was here. After He Lianjue's interruption, Yi Wanwan calmed down and quickly hid in the back before Si Yihan entered. Little worryless, hey, think about it some more? He Lianjue resentfully glanced at Yi Wanwan's disappearing figure. At this moment, a servant came to report that Si Yihan was visiting. Only then did He Lianjue immediately switch into Yi Lingjun mode. Qin Shiyuan clearly came with Si Yihan, but she didn't come in. Of course, she might have only come to intentionally have a chance encounter with Si Yihan, then send those suggestive photos to Yi Wanwan to provoke conflict. Her objective had already been achieved. The servants didn't have time to clean up the living room before Si Yihan entered, so he immediately saw the shattered table inside, as well as the deep crack on the floor. Si Yihan, Yi Lingjun wore an unfathomable expression as he calmly said, I had a little spar with my little disciple just now and didn't have time to clean up. Apologies, apologies. Si Yihan glanced at Medusa and naturally thought she was the little disciple Yi Lingjun referred to. You're too polite. It's fine, Si Yihan replied. As Medusa covertly evaluated this man whose stunning looks made people unable to look away, she hurriedly ordered the servants to tidy up the living room and move a new tea table inside before retreating. Read more chapters at List Novel. Please sit, Director C. Yi Lingjun invited. He was the embodiment of a learned scholar and great master without a trace of abnormality in his expression. When Yi Wanwan, who was hidden in the back, saw Yi Lingjuan's ability to change his face so fast, she seriously suspected whether he had split personalities or not. Si Yihan nodded and sat down across from Yi Lingjun. I originally shouldn't have rudely disturbed you after you returned fatigued from your long trip, President Yi, but the summit is imminent and there's a matter I must discuss with you as soon as possible. Yi Lingjun raised her brows. Oh, what are you talking about, Director C? Si Yihan didn't beat about the bush and frankly handed over the document bag containing the new amendment he prepared the past few days. Yi Lingjun glanced at Si Yihan before accepting the thick documents. After skimming the documents, Yi Lingjun understood Si Yihan's intention for coming today. You must have spent a lot of energy preparing this, right, Director C? As they say, each new generation surpasses the previous one. You might be young, but you already hold dear the well-being of the people close to your heart. The rising generation is truly a force to be reckoned with. Si Yihan seemed to have thought of something, and his face, which had been cold and rigid since he stepped through the door, softened a few degrees. You're praising me too much, President. I don't dare to claim credit for myself. I didn't do it for the independent state. It was merely just a little selfishness on my part. Yi Lingjun imperceptibly glanced at Yi Wanwan's hiding place before asking, Oh? Selfishness? Not doing it for the people, only doing it for one person behind the reception pavilion, Medusa elbowed Yi Wanwan and teased, You? Or the reason behind Director C's selfishness, right? Yi Wanwan stared at the man in front of her and couldn't help but recall what He Lianjue said earlier. Everyone was pursuing power, but this man seemed to lack any personal desire of his own and always solely lived for her. Medusa lowered her voice and warned her, However, worryless, you can't trust him too much. No man can resist the temptation of power. If they can resist it, it's merely because the temptation isn't big enough. If Master really had a daughter and wanted to marry her to him, do you think he'd still be indifferent? Yi Lingjun smiled. It appears. Director C isn't doing it for the people and only doing it for one person? Yes, Si Yihan replied. Young people are rather honest, but you should know that the probability of me supporting you would be higher if you said it was for the independent state, Yi Lingjun said insinuatingly. I believe that you should value the result more, President. My original intentions aren't important. His original intentions might not be important to other people, but it was very important to him. Yi Lingjun swirled the tea leaves in his cup with the lid before abruptly switching the topic. There's actually another reason I rushed back to Tianshui City this time. Si Yihan expressed his puzzlement and listened attentively. May I ask what reason that was, President? Yi Lingjun released a long sigh before announcing, I found my long-lost daughter. Behind the reception pavilion, Yi Wanwan was listening to senior sister and nearly choked when she heard Yi Lingjun's sentence. Read more chapters at list novel. What the heck was this old devil saying? However, what followed was more exasperating. Si Yihan was also evidently astonished at hearing that. You have a daughter, President? Everyone in the independent state knew that Yi Lingjun was unmarried and didn't have children. Yi Lingjun looked proud. That's right. Of course I have a daughter and she's a very adorable and beautiful girl. Every parent in the world would think their child was the best, and Yi Lingjun appeared to be no exception. Hence, when Si Yihan heard this, he didn't find anything wrong with it. Congratulations are in order then, President. Yi Lingjun closely observed Si Yihan's reaction as he continued with endless sighs. Unfortunately, this girl's standards are too high and hasn't taken a fancy to anyone. As a father, what I want to see the most is her finding an ideal husband. Regarding her marriage, I've simply been wretched by anxiety. Si Yihan inexplicably felt something was wrong with the direction of this topic. His astuteness told him that Yi Lingjun was purposefully saying these words to him, but he didn't feel like Yi Lingjun was this kind of master, who would do something like this. Hence, Si Yihan fell into silence for a moment before emptily replying, Fate merely hasn't come yet. You don't need to be so worried, President. A sharp glint flickered through Yi Lingjun's eyes before he bluntly said, Seeing Director C today has made an impression on me. You're outstanding and capable, your thoughts are open and frank, and your appearance must be liked by girls. That daughter of mine has liked good-looking people since she was born. At this point, Yi Lingjun's meaning was very obvious. So much so that Si Yihan turned completely quiet. Yi Lingjun actually wanted to matchmake his daughter with him? Can fairly compete. May I ask if Director C is willing to meet with my daughter? Yi Lingjun asked. He already went this far in his words, so Si Yihan had no way of dodging. Yi Lingjun was considered a virtuous and prestigious person in the independent state and was also a senior that Si Yihan greatly admired. Since Yi Lingjun said this to him out of love for his own daughter, Si Yihan couldn't brush him off too harshly. Hence, after considering for a moment, Si Yihan responded, Thank you for your high regard, President. With someone like you as her father, your daughter must be a very outstanding woman. Unfortunately, I have a fiancé already. Although Si Yihan's words were tactful, his tone was very resolute. Yi Lingjun chuckled and uncaringly said, Since she's just a fiancé, that means you're unmarried still. Furthermore, regarding this supposed engagement, I heard that the Nye family and the Si family haven't concretely agreed to an engagement yet, no? Si Yihan furrowed his brows, but unfortunately, Yi Lingjun spoke the truth. Forget about his mother. On Wanwan's side, her parents also didn't approve of him and hadn't relented. Only Grandpa agreed to their marriage. Yi Lingjun watched Si Yihan's expression as he continued, Since it's like that, you two are merely lovers. So forgive me for being blunt, but they can compete fairly, no? Behind the living room, the corners of Yi Wanwan's lips kept twitching. Fair competition your ass. You're clearly using your position as the president to force someone, alright. This is a competition of dads. Si Yihan smiled faintly, his expression composed as he said, Apologies, President. To me, fair competition doesn't exist since no one can compare to her. Behind the living room, Medusa watched this man who remained neither servile nor arrogant when faced with Master's temptation and started to admire him. Wow. Little junior sister, your taste in men seems to be quite decent. Master went this far already, but he still isn't tempted? That's quite a feat already. You must be happy. Although Si Yihan resisted the temptation, it still didn't completely extinguish the fury inside Yi Wanwan. What's there to be happy about, huh? Qin Shiyuan actually managed to touch his hand. She touched his hand. She touched his hand. She touched his hand. Yi Wanwan grumbled on endless repeat. After Medusa figured out what Yi Wanwan was muttering, she was exasperated. You're still hung up about that? What day and age is it? She merely touched his hand. She touched his hand. And it's just merely. She touched his hand. Yi Wanwan's voice nearly leaped an octave, but she thankfully managed to restrain herself partway through. Medusa cleared her throat. But he's a man, so being touched a bit should be fine, right? Yi Wanwan ferociously glared at her. Of course it's not fine. No one is allowed to touch anyone that's mine. Not even the tip of his finger. Medusa, so, everything earlier was a pretense, right? This right now is the real you, Yi Wanwan. Inside the living room. He actually didn't get tricked. Yi Lingjun never expected this young man to be so tricky. His eyes glinted as he meaningfully said, "Young man, you should never say things too resolutely." Si Yihin never expected the direction of today's conversation to take this turn, so he could only hastily drag the reins back. President, about the bill. Yi Lingjun set down the files and pinched his brows, feigning exhaustion. Sigh, I've truly expended too much energy on my precious daughter's future marriage recently. Leave these documents behind, and I'll take a look at them when I'm free. Yi Wanwan was so angry that she nearly charged out. Temptation didn't work, so he's resorting to threats now, huh? Could he be any more shameless? Si Yihin furrowed his brows minutely. Judging from Yi Lingjun's attitude, he knew there probably wouldn't be any outcome today. Hence, he could only stand up and say, "Please rest then. This junior will visit again another day." Yi Lingjun glanced at Si Yihin's wrist, which was covered by his sleeve, from the corner of his eye before standing up to see Si Yihin off. After Si Yihin left, Yi Wanwan immediately leaped out from the reception pavilion. "Old monster, what nonsense are you spouting?" Yi Lingjun calmly and unruffledly sat down by the new tea table. When did father spout nonsense? Father was handing him an olive branch. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble. What do you mean? Yi Wanwan frowned. Do you think that girl from the Qin family is someone to be trifled with and will permit a man to reject and humiliate her time and time again? Yi Lingjun looked at Yi Wanwan. Your man is about to be in deep trouble. And only you, my good daughter, can help him. At the same time, at the Qin residence, when Qin Shiyuan returned, her face was extremely dark and her trailing female servant had her head bowed, not daring to even breathe loudly. No one had ever treated her miss like this. Qin Zong walked downstairs and saw how his daughter was cheerful when she left but returned in a bad mood. He hastily inquired, Yuan, what happened? Who caused your unhappiness? Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm before Qin Shiyuan could respond, the servant spoke up. Who else but that director C? He seriously went too far and was ungrateful of the courtesy Miss extended him. Si Yihin? Qin Zong frowned. What happened? The female servant explained, Director C is a condescending jerk who considers our miss beneath him and continues to reject our miss in every manner possible. If he's playing hard to get, he should have a limit, but today he actually… What did he do? Qin Zong asked gloweringly. The female servant stomped her feet in anger. Today, Miss merely touched his hand, but he actually wiped his hand with an alcoholic wipe on the spot and also humiliated Miss. Enough. Shut up. Qin Shiyuan angrily rebuked, interrupting the female servant. She had never been humiliated in this fashion in all her life. She lowered herself graciously to approach a man, but he actually humiliated her again and again because of a cheap tramp. How dare he? Qin Zong was infuriated instantly. Who permitted him to humiliate my daughter like this? Qin Zong then quickly comforted his daughter. Yuan, don't worry. Father will definitely pay him back for his impertinence. But Auntie Yin Yuerong is no one to fear. Anyway, she abandoned this son a long time ago. You were originally that boy's sole opportunity to make a comeback, but he didn't treasure it. He's seriously idiotic. A man like him isn't worthy of my daughter. Qin Zong menacingly continued, whether he's a biological son or not isn't important. What's important is your choice, Yuan Yuan. I'll give everything to whoever can win your favor. Father, I want to make him pay and wallow in regret. Qin Xin clenched her fists and immediately ordered her servant, You. Go and set up a meeting with Yin Heng. Tell him I have something to discuss with him. Since this man was so impertinent, she would give everything that belonged to him to his archenemy. She refused to believe he still wouldn't bend the knee when he lost everything. She would definitely make him beg for her forgiveness on his knees. At a French restaurant in Tianshui City, Yin Heng was neither early nor late and arrived 5 minutes ahead of the agreed time. He elegantly sat down on his seat by the window with the posture of a noble young master. About an hour later, Qin Shiyuan finally arrived. However, Yin Heng didn't display any irritation. When he saw Qin Shiyuan, his eyes brightened and he quickly stood up to pull back the seat across from him out for her and handed her a bouquet of fresh roses. Qin Shiyuan accepted the roses and glanced at them before setting them aside. Thanks. Yin Heng furtively probed, What happened? Why do you appear to be unhappy, Miss Qin? Qin Shiyuan's lips curled up in a sneer. Nothing. I just ran into a disobedient dog. Yin Heng's eyes shifted, joy flickering through them. It appeared Si Yihan lost her favor? He originally employed every method he could, but Qin Shiyuan was disdainful and chased after Si Yihan instead. Since she was Qin Shiyuan, the daughter of the Arbitration Council's Vice President Qin, he didn't dare to use any special methods. Otherwise, if he offended the Qin family, he'd be doomed. While he was at his wits' end, he never expected Qin Shiyuan to contact him of her own volition. Yin Heng smiled faintly. Not only is that dog disobedient, but he also appears to be a blind dog to have provoked the rage of a beautiful woman like you, Miss Qin. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm Qin Shiyuan peered up at him, her mood easing due to his honeyed words. Evidently, Yin Heng's fawning attitude wholly fulfilled her vanity, which was damaged after Si Yihan's blow. This is how men should treat me. I heard Auntie has intentions to pass on the Yin family to you? Qin Shiyuan asked aloofly. Yin Heng bitterly smiled. Mother does have those intentions indeed, but, Qin Shiyuan asked, but what? Yin Heng's expression fell as he said, but now that Si Yihan has returned to Tianshui City, he's mother's biological son, after all. No matter how well I perform, he's the one mother has been most satisfied with all along. Qin Shiyuan snorted. So what? Whether you're biological or not isn't that important. Yin Heng's eyes flickered. What do you mean, Miss Qin? Qin Xian nonchalantly said, Attend the banquet the night after tomorrow with me. Yin Heng was startled. Miss Qin is talking about the opening ceremony for the summit? There was an opening ceremony that occurred before the summit every year. After the opening ceremony ended, a banquet would be held that night and the attendees solely consisted of the directors and the higher-ups of the Arbitration Council. Qin Shiyuan actually wanted him to be her male companion in this kind of setting. This was representative of extremely high regard from her and monumental for him. Qin Shiyuan raised her brows. What? You aren't unwilling? Yin Heng suppressed the mad joy in his heart and answered with a refined and gentle expression, Impossible. It's my honor to have been invited by Miss Qin. Qin Shiyuan was finally satisfied and raised her glass. Hey, Mr. Yin truly is clever. Cheers. Cheers. After dinner was over, Yin Heng personally drove Qin Shiyuan back to the Qin residence before driving back to the Yin residence. When he arrived home, Yin Heng sought out Yin Yuerong immediately. Mother! Yin Yuerong expressionlessly looked up. It's so late. Do you need something? Yin Heng replied, Tonight. Miss Qin asked to meet with me. Yin Yuerong's expression remained unchanged. Is that so? Yin Heng continued, Miss Qin invited me to attend the banquet with her in 2 nights. Yin Yuerong peered up at him again and didn't seem the slightest bit surprised. Is that so? All the people attending will be higher-ups from the Arbitration Council, so it will be a very good opportunity. You need to present yourself well. I'll have someone prepare an appropriate outfit for you later. Gratitude brimmed from Yin Heng's face. Thank you, mother. Yin Yuerong nodded with satisfaction. Go on then. get along well with Miss Chin. Yin Heng revealed hints of bashfulness as he humbly said, Miss Chin and I haven't progressed to that step yet. Yin Yuerong said, since she's invited you to attend the opening banquet, it means she has favorable feelings toward you already. Yin Heng naturally knew that. He was merely intentionally concealing his edges. He asked Yin Yuerong what to be conscientious of at the banquet before finally leaving. After Yin Heng left, the elderly female housekeeper walked out from the back. But wasn't Mississippi Chin close with young master several days ago? Why is she suddenly with Yin Heng now, even inviting him to attend such an important banquet? The housekeeper was perplexed. Yin Yuerong snorted. Why else? What else could it be aside from that woman? He's simply wrecking his own future and absolutely idiotic. The housekeeper sighed. Young master is a rather romantically devoted person. Yin Yuerong snorted. Romantically devoted? He'll eventually regret it. The housekeeper remembered something and hesitantly inquired, Oh right, I've prepared the people you wanted me to find earlier. I searched throughout the entire 12 independent states and found 3 girls. They are all top-notch beauties. Do you want me to send them to young master right now? Yin Yuerong replied, Send them, of course. If he doesn't like them, then keep searching and sending more. That child, Agio, is merely too naive in romantic affairs and has seen too few women, so he's been fooled and charmed by that woman. Mockery was written all over Yin Yuerong's face as she continued, Back then, didn't see Huaizhang claim he was solely in love with that woman? What happened in the end? He still spends his days drinking, seeking pleasure, and loving every new woman he meets. The housekeeper wanted to say something else at first but bit back her words upon hearing that and could only reply, Yes, I'll send them now. At this moment, at a manor in Tianshui City, He Lianjue was weeping and threatening to hang himself. Sigh, I'm so sad. Even if you become the daughter of the president, you still don't like me. What's the point of me being the president, huh? I'd be better off resigning and returning home. Wah, little worryless. I'm telling you, that woman Yin Yuerong is a psycho. She definitely won't spare you for destroying her most perfect creation. You'll definitely regret not becoming my daughter. Little worryless. To avoid being nagged to death by He Lianjue, Yi Wanwan hastily escaped from the manor. When Big Dipper saw Yi Wanwan, he immediately dashed forward. Sis Feng, you're finally back. I was worried to death. If you were still nowhere to be seen, I would have raided the president's manor. Fu Mingxi also hurriedly demanded, Sis Feng, why in the world did the arbitration council take you elsewhere? They probably wanted to abduct and sell me? Yi Wanwan replied. He didn't have a daughter but insisted on abducting her to be his daughter. Big Dipper, huh? Fu Mingxi, what? Yi Wanwan cleared her throat. Just kidding. It was nothing. He just wanted to ask me about the bill amendment. As she spoke, First Elder and Third Elder returned from their scouting mission. President, we're back. What did you discover? Yi Wanwan inquired instantly. First Elder took a sip of water before quickly saying, The ancestral Yin residence is impenetrable as a metal pail, and we truly couldn't enter it. However, we used some alternate methods and scouted quite a bit of information. Third Elder continued, We saw Yin Heng suddenly going out late at night, so we followed. Guess what we discovered, President? What? Tell me. Don't leave me hanging. Yuanwan said. Third Elder, we found out Yin Heng actually went to meet up with Qin Shiyuan. Yi Wanwan frowned. Do you know what they said? First Elder immediately pushed Third Elder to the side. We specifically found a nearby position. I have good hearing, so I heard some of it. Basically, this dog couple mingled together and Qin Shiyuan even invited Yin Heng to be her male companion for the banquet in 2 nights. Third Elder added, Tiskiske, that woman is seriously shameless and actually called Sir Lord Azura a disobedient dog. She's clearly the one who glued herself to him, but Sir Lord Azura ignored her. Is that so? Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes. He Lianjue already warned her about this, but she didn't expect things to turn out identical to his prediction, and so quickly at that. Qin Shiyuan sought out Yin Heng as soon as she left, clearly to seek revenge against Si Yihan. Qin Shiyuan thought she could suppress and threaten him, but in reality, Agio didn't care about this kind of thing at all. However, I care. One more thing, First Elder began hesitantly. What thing? Yi Wanwan asked. First Elder coughed lightly. Third Elder will tell you. Third Elder took a step back. First Elder was the one who discovered this piece of news, so First Elder will tell you. First Elder retorted, How am I the one who discovered it? It was clearly you who suggested going to Lord Azura's residence to scout around. Third Elder. Read more chapters at List Novel. Come upon seeing the two of them shoving each other back and forth again, Yi Wanwan drew the Tang backsword from her waist and slapped it on the table with a clang. I'll give you 10 seconds. Tell me together. First Elder and Third Elder instantly replied in sync. We discovered that Yin Yuerong sent 3 beautiful women to Lord Azura. Yi Wanwan, First Elder and Third Elder. Also, Yin Yuerong is having people continue to look. It looks like they're going to keep giving him women until he accepts them. Dead silence pervaded the air. A terrifying aura brewed and billowed around Yi Wanwan. First Elder and Third Elder met each other's eyes and started to shiver involuntarily. Big Dipper carelessly said, Yin Yuerong merely sent 3 beautiful women to Lord Azura. What great storm hasn't our cis phone gotten through? What's there to fuss about? Minor matter, minor matter. Fu Mingxi also hastily agreed. That's right, that's right. The president wouldn't care about this kind of minor. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Before he finished, a terrifying kachak resounded in the air. Big Dipper, Fu Mingxi, First Elder, and Third Elder watched as the glass cup in Yi Wanwan's hand shattered like a spider web before turning into dust. Fu Mingxi finished, minor matter. They instantly huddled in the corner like quails with fearful expressions on their faces. She originally didn't want to use an overly shameless method, but it appeared her previous line of thinking had gone crooked. She should have traversed her own path and bravely acted like herself. Yi Wanwan dug out her phone without hesitation and dialed the number He Lianjue gave her before she left. He Lianjue, hey, little worryless. Yi Wanwan, hey, Dad. He Lianjue. Yi Wanwan had just said, Dad, when she heard doot doot doot. The sound of the call ending came from the other end. She glanced at her phone in confusion. What's going on? Within 3 seconds, her phone started ringing. It was a call from Senior Sister. Yi Wanwan answered the call, bewildered. Hello, Senior Sister? Medusa anxiously asked. Little Junior Sister, what did you say to Master when you called him just now? Nothing much. What happened to him? Yi Wanwan was confused. Medusa replied, Master was talking to me on the 2nd floor balcony. When he answered your call, he suddenly dropped the phone off the balcony accidentally, has been frozen in his spot since and won't answer me no matter what. Yi Wanwan, is that necessary? Medusa asked, just what in the world did you say, little Junior Sister? I just said one word. One word? That's impossible. Why would Master be so emotional? One word, Dad. Medusa. After a few seconds of silence, rustling was heard from the other end, as if Senior Sister's phone was snatched away. Quickly after, He Lianjue's voice, which sounded so excited like he was about to cry, was heard. Little worryless. WWH, what did you call me just now? You called me Dad? Sasa. Did you hear it? My daughter called me Dad. Medusa cleared her throat and promptly followed along and pacified him. Yes, Master, I heard it. I did say that Worryless still respected and admired you greatly, so why would she reject your kind notion? Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm He Lianjue shouted, little Worryless. Quickly call me Daddy again. Yi Wanwan exasperatedly sighed. Alright, Dad. Stop yowling. Dad, I have some proper business to discuss with you. Upon hearing her call him Dad twice, He Lianjue was simply satisfied and quickly assumed his role. Good daughter, tell me. Yi Wanwan coughed lightly. Although I don't mind donning another disguise, are you sure someone would believe this kind of bullshit? Although nearly no one in Tianshui City knows me, Yin Yuerong at least knows how I look, right? She's met me before. Also, Qin Shiyuan probably investigated me and knows how I look. Yet, I became your daughter out of nowhere. That doesn't make sense no matter how you look at it. She added. He Lianjue replied with excessive confidence, so what if they've seen your face? There are so many people who look similar in this world, so what's there to be shocked about? Anyway, good daughter, you still don't seem to fully understand your daddy's prestige in the 12 independent states. Father told you before that no one would doubt anything I say. When Yi Wanwan heard this, the idiom, calling white black, involuntarily popped up in her mind. This idiom wasn't blindly crafted, it was a true story in history. For someone in a superior position, the words you said were the truth no matter how BS they were. Especially for someone with Yi Lingjuan's reputation. No one would believe Yi Lingjun would vehemently abduct a daughter to satisfy his desire simply because he didn't have a daughter himself. He Lianjue continued, as for the other stuff, father has naturally handled it already. Regardless of how they investigated you, there would only be one result. Father has a long-lost daughter and your father's daughter. Yi Wanwan simply didn't know what to say anymore. Handled it already? Could it be that this scheme had long been concocted? Anyway, with my good daughter's plastic surgery-like acting skills, what's there to be worried about? Father believes in you. He Lianjue didn't forget to praise his daughter. Yi Wanwan's lips turned up, and she returned the gesture. No, how could I be acting? Dad, this isn't acting, I'm revealing my true feelings. We shared a deep father and daughter bond to begin with. He Lianjue was moved to tears and looked incredibly touched. That's right. My good daughter's right. Good daughter, don't worry, you can traipse across the 12 independent states however you want. Forget about stealing a man from someone. Even if you want to start a harem, father will satisfy you. No need, Dad, Yi Wanwan replied. The harem? Do I want to die? Yi Wanwan made this phone call on the balcony, so Big Dipper, Fu Mingxi, first elder, and third elder only heard Yi Wanwan call the other person, Dad, and thought she was conversing with Patriarch Nya. None of them expected He Lianjue to be on the other end of the phone. He Lianjue prattled on for eons and didn't forget to remind her, oh right, you better not tell that C guy. You should pretend to not know him. If we reveal any flaws, we won't get our desired effect. This is very important. Yi Wanwan rubbed her chin, thinking, of course I don't want Agio to find out I secretly came to Tianshui City. Whether he would recognize her or not, she couldn't guarantee it. However, thinking back on it, when Siyihen pretended to be a stranger as Lord Azura, wasn't she nearly deceived? When she faced Lord Azura back then, she was on the brink of questioning her life. No matter what, her professional acting skills should be stronger than his, right? Moreover, she had the support of the old and cunning He Lianjue, so the level of her happily received new disguise wasn't any inferior to He Lianjue's gold-spun soft armor. I suddenly feel excited. If I hit on Siyihen as a stranger and as the president's daughter, how will he react? At this time, in Siyihen's residence in Tianshui City, Lin Ke finally managed to dismiss the people from the Yin family and the 3 women they brought with them. After taking care of business, Lin Ke reported back to Siyihen, both mentally and physically exhausted. Damn, I finally kicked them out. Isn't Auntie Rong too ruthless? Thank goodness the authority is far away and that girl won't find out about this or else it'd be tragic. Siyihen didn't say anything, but it was very obvious he was also glad about that point. When Lin Ke saw Siyihen with a rare troubled look on his face, Lin Ke furtively asked, Ninth brother, during today's visit, what was the president's attitude? Siyihen glanced at Lin Ke silently. A moment later, he asked, President Yi has a daughter? Lin Ke didn't understand the meaning behind Siyihen's question and reflexively shook his head. He doesn't, right? Isn't President Yi unmarried? That doesn't mean he doesn't have a daughter. Lin Ke turned more dumbfounded. You're right, but why are you suddenly asking this, ninth brother? Siyihen didn't intend to make Lin Ke delve into Yi Lingjuan's private matters. After all, Since Yi Lingjun said something like this, it absolutely couldn't be nonsense. Si Yihan merely found it to be out of left field. Thankfully, Yi Lingjun wasn't Qin Zong. Even if he rejected Yi Lingjun today, the other man wouldn't selfishly make things difficult for him with his big heart. However, when Si Yihan recalled Yi Lingjun's attitude after he rejected him, he suddenly felt uncertain. Was he truly too preoccupied with his daughter's future marriage, or was he intentionally making things difficult for him? The day of the summit opening ceremony. After the solemn opening ceremony ended, night fell and the banquet officially started. The Arbitration Council was considered at the peak of the 12 independent states' power pyramid. All the higher-ups and members of the Arbitration Council were powerful leaders of their respective states, and furthermore, the current president was the great martial arts master, Yi Lingjun. It could be said that this current Arbitration Council organization was the strongest in history. Hence, it was apparent what an extravaganza this year's summit banquet would be. Of course, what particularly excited all the directors and members wasn't the new president. It was the return of the daughter of the vice president, Qin Zong, the most beautiful woman in Tianshui City, Qin Shiyuan. Moreover, the Qin family had released news that they were choosing a husband for their eldest miss. The Qin residence's main door was nearly destroyed from the trampling horde. Aside from power, what people pursued zealously was none other than beautiful women. What made this even better was that this was a powerful and influential beautiful woman. Everyone knew what marrying Qin Shiyuan represented. Why isn't eldest Miss Qin here yet? Will she come today? Of course she'll come on an occasion like today. Even if she didn't come as Vice President Qin's family member, she herself is a high-ranked legal consultant for the Arbitration Council. It's unrelated to you whether eldest Miss comes or not anyway, since eldest Miss's heart belongs to someone else already. The person next to them furtively glanced at Si Yihan in the distance and lowered their voice as they said, "Are you talking about the gossip article published about eldest Miss and director Si a few days ago? Read more chapters at List Novel. Come, exactly. Don't forget what the Qin family controls. If it weren't for the Qin family's tacit approval, why would they have permitted such an article to be published? I also heard it was eldest Miss on the pursuing side. Then doesn't that mean we don't have a chance? It's strange though. Why did Director C come here by himself today? If things were really as the article said, eldest Miss would definitely be attending with him today, right? You know women. They have to change their clothes and do their makeup. She'll probably arrive soon." Nearby, Qin Zong had a wineglass in hand as he conversed with Yin Yuerong. Qin Zong's face was icy and rather displeased when he saw Yin Yuerong. Director Yin, your son is truly haughty and arrogant. I wonder what respectable family you're discussing marriage with that caused him to look down on even my daughter, Qin Zong." Yin Yuerong replied, "Vice President Qin, what you're saying is too heavy. There isn't any respectable family, she's merely some wild girl. Miss Qin is as graceful as a phoenix, but my son merely has bad taste." Qin Zong snorted. "Thank goodness there's at least one clever person in your family." Yin Yuerong furrowed her brows and glanced at her nearby son. When she saw his composed appearance, fury raged inside of her. For a woman, he was shoving away such a great opportunity. Everyone was occupied by their own thoughts and discussion ran rampant. At this moment, a silvery white luxurious car suddenly stopped at the entrance. Someone sharply recognized it as eldest Miss Qin's car. As everyone waited in anticipation for a beautiful woman to exit the car. To their surprise, the first to come out wasn't Qin Shiyuan. Instead it was a man. The man first stepped out of the car before courteously pulling open the back door. Isn't that Yin Heng? That's right. Why did he come out of eldest Miss Qin's car? Soon, the breathtakingly dressed Qin Shiyuan stepped out of the car with the support of Yin Heng. She naturally looped her arms around Yin Heng's arm, affectionate in her mannerisms. What's going on? Yin Heng and Qin Shiyuan? Isn't Yin Heng Yin Yuerong's adopted son? Everyone was stupefied. No one expected Qin Shiyuan's male companion today to be In Heng, as the rumors about Qin Shiyuan and Si Yihan were burning furiously just several days ago. What kind of plot development was this? Nearly everyone reflexively turned to look at Si Yihan. It seemed like he was cheated on and abandoned by eldest Mississippi. When faced with everyone's various odd gazes, astonished, sympathetic, etc., Si Yihan remained frosty and snowy without any change in expression, as if he was in a different world. A director standing next to him couldn't help but strike up a conversation with Si Yihan. "Director Si, doesn't Miss Qin like you? Why is she with your brother? This is too much. But you don't need to be too sad. The summit would convene tomorrow," so Si Yihan was swiftly mentally editing his proposed law one last time. He charitably extracted a trace of attention from that and glanced at the other director. "Sad? Sigh, say no more. I get it. Don't be too saddened." The director expressed his understanding and didn't pour any more salt on Si Yihan's supposed wounds. Regardless of who the man was, he wouldn't feel good after having his woman stolen by his brother, especially a woman like this. "Miss Qin, you're here. Goddess, you're seriously too beautiful today." After Qin Shiyuan and In Heng entered the hall, everyone returned to their senses and greeted her, their probing gazes trailing to In Heng next to her. At this moment, a director's female companion who was close to Qin Shiyuan asked, Yuan, weren't you with Director Si earlier? How come today?" Qin Shiyuan glanced at Si Yihan and saw there wasn't a ripple on his face or any of the jealousy and regret she wanted to see. Her expression darkened. Qin Shiyuan's voice wasn't too loud or too quiet, but it was the perfect volume for everyone around her to hear her. "Director Si and I? Where did this rumor come from? Apologies, but Director Si and I aren't familiar with each other, and we aren't related in any capacity. I hope nobody will believe in these kinds of irresponsible words anymore." Read more chapters at List Novel. After saying that, Qin Shiyuan turned to In Heng next to her and sweetly said, "Let me introduce him to everyone. This is In Heng, my boyfriend." A gentle and doting expression immediately appeared on In Heng's face. The series of shocked and jealous gazes following this announcement caused his vanity to be satisfied like never before. After all these years, he finally completely defeated Si Yihan. Qin Shiyuan actually straightforwardly denied she liked Si Yihan and directly announced her relationship with In Heng. For a man, this was the same as slapping him in public. When the socialite heard this, she looked embarrassed and hastily went along with what Qin Shiyuan said. "Oh, so it was all a rumor. Who would wildly spread something like this? It's too disrespectful." She didn't forget to add flatteringly, "So you're dating In Heng right now? You're truly a handsome pair. You're too matching." All the other people started congratulating the couple. The men who were previously admiring Si Yihan for being liked by eldest Miss Qin all looked at Si Yihan in a schadenfreude manner. In Yuerong slowly stopped next to Si Yihan. "How does it feel? If you express your regret now, perhaps it wouldn't be too late for you to properly beg for Miss Qin's forgiveness." Si Yihan looked aloof. "Why does Director In think my taste would be so bad that I'd take a liking to Qin Xian?" In Yuerong was nearly infuriated to death. He was disdainful of the daughter of the Arbitration Council's vice president but liked that wild girl. How could he say that so boldly? Before In Yuerong could say anything else, Si Yihan icily said, "Don't let me see a woman appear within 3 feet of my house again." In Yuerong didn't expect her son to be so ungrateful of her efforts. "Good. Great. You even look down on the daughter of the vice president. What a big appetite you have. I'd like to see how long you can last. Agio, remember what I'm saying today. You'll regret this one day." After saying that, In Yuerong angrily stomped away in her high heels. She was utterly disappointed in this son of hers now. On the other side, Qin Shiyuan was akin to the sun surrounded by a myriad of planets. Nearly everyone spiraled around her. Today, Qin Shiyuan wore a beaded, dark blue fishtail gown, giving her a sparkly appearance, and the high-end cut complemented her alluring figure. She was dazzling amidst the crowd and undoubtedly became the focus of the banquet. In addition, she had the handsome and scholarly In Heng standing next to her. The good-looking couple further caught everyone's attention. Miss Qin is seriously too beautiful. No wonder she's the most beautiful woman in Tianshui City. I don't think we can find anyone prettier than our Miss Qin in all of the 12 independent states. Of course. Who can compare to Yuan Yuan in terms of looks, talent, and family background? I'm seriously jealous of Yin Heng. Yin Heng adoringly looked at Qin Shiyuan and gently said, Yuan Yuan is the most beautiful and perfect girl I've ever seen. I consider myself most fortunate for receiving her favor. Several higher-ups grouped together with wine glasses in hand, furiously conversing. I didn't expect that lad, Yin Heng, to have gotten there first. Yin Heng is finally flushed with success tonight. Someone will probably be sad though, of course. Getting his woman stolen by his brother. Who wouldn't be hurt if this happened to them? In the corner, Yu Xiao looked at Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng, his tone serious as he said, I didn't expect Miss Qin to actually get together with Yin Heng. This way, the matter will probably be tricky. He actually didn't agree with Si Yihan's method in private, but it wasn't his place to say anything as Si Yihan's subordinate. Lin Kei scowled. Isn't Qin Shiyuan, that woman, seriously too good at pretending? It was clearly ninth brother who didn't take a liking to her, but now, she's making it sound like she was the one who abandoned ninth brother. Also Yin Heng. Just look at his triumphant face. Was the director's visit to the president 2 days ago successful? Yu Xiao asked. Lin Kei shook his head. I also don't know what happened there. However, ninth brother's attitude was a little strange when he returned. Yu Xiao felt a pounding headache. I said before that Qin Shiyuan was too important. This current situation was extremely disadvantageous for them. On the banquet hall's balcony, He Lianjue was on a call with Yi Wanwan. Good daughter, why aren't you here yet? Don't tell me you're going back on your word. Don't blame me for not telling you, but Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng came together today. They're clearly humiliating your man publicly. Right now, all the ignorant people are gleefully enjoying a good show. On the other end of the phone, Yi Wanwan chuckled lightly. It's easy to enjoy a good show. There's a better show coming up. At the same time, inside the dressing room that Medusa prepared for Yi Wanwan, all the makeup artists and stylists were rooted in their spots as they stared at the girl in front of them. Yi Wanwan gently flicked the bottom of her dress and peered up. Senior sister, is this okay? Only then did Medusa recover from her enormously stunned state. Too okay. My God, little junior sister, I always thought Qin Shiyuan was beautiful enough already, but now I finally know what the saying, staring at the sky from the bottom of the well, means. Why are you always dressed like a beggar, little junior sister? Aren't you wasting your face too much? Yi Wanwan looked at senior sister's sorrowful appearance and sighed. It's mainly because I got used to earning a living with shamelessness and nearly forgot I could earn a living with my face. Medusa. Inside the banquet hall, Yin Heng was elatedly traversing through the crowds of distinguished leaders and figures with Qin Shiyuan. After acting as a good son in the Yin family for so many years and acting as Si Yihan's substitute for so many years, this was the first time he felt he could raise his head completely in front of Si Yihan. He had never felt this happy. As he walked arm in arm with the beautiful, breathtaking Qin Shiyuan, arm in arm with the most beautiful woman with the most illustrious background in Tianshui City, he could finally stomp Si Yihan under his feet. Yin Heng purposefully led Qin Shiyuan to Si Yihan. Eldest brother, Yuan Yuan and I are together now. Aren't you going to give us your blessing? Si Yihan had been working intensely these past few days and was nearly exhausted, so he was sitting on a high stool in front of the bar and was supporting his forehead with his hand as he closed his eyes and rested. Upon being disturbed, he slowly peered up. Although he had to look up, his innately superior gaze still made him look like he was staring down at ants, and he exerted a frightening pressure. Lin Kei knew his ninth brother's personality. Si Yihan was disinclined to even spare a look for people he didn't care about. However, Yin Heng was actually an exception. Lin Kei still remembered the look in his ninth brother's eyes when he learned Auntie Rong adopted a son, carefully nurtured this adopted son, and that he could be replaced at any second. It was the look of someone whose last support pillar in the entire world had just crumbled. Regardless of how extreme In Yuerong acted before, Ninth Brother wasn't as hurt as that moment. Ninth Brother didn't care about this guy anymore, but when Lin Kei watched how this guy circled around them like a fly and came running here to brag, he still felt disgusted. Read more chapters at List Novel. It took In Heng everything he had to not allow himself to appear weak under Si Yihan's overly formidable aura and keep his wine glass raised. Qin Shiyuan chuckled lowly. I should salute Director Si with a glass first. Director Si is truly passionately devoted to Miss Nia. I wish the two of you to live to old age in conjugal bliss. Qin Shiyuan's mockery was evident. Si Yihan actually rejected her because of the mere worryless Nia. Now that he had to watch her next to his archenemy, In Heng, she didn't believe he could remain unruffled. There were many people glancing at them covertly. This scene was incredibly explosive. Yi Wanwan, who was standing at the entrance, also watched this scene in its entirety. She previously ordered First Elder and Third Elder to scout out the Yin family situation, so they did discover some things about the Yin family and truthfully told her in detail. Back then, merely because Si Yihan couldn't reach In Yuerong's standards and satisfy her, the woman immediately adopted a son and nurtured him from the beginning. Yi Wanwan still couldn't figure out how In Yuerong could be so cruel and give up on her son that easily. Even if she didn't understand the situation back then, she could still imagine Si Yihan's emotions when he discovered he was someone who could be replaced at any second to his mother, a figure whom he obeyed unhesitatingly and used everything he could to gain her approval despite her crazed, strict, and heartless demeanor. She knew that everything had passed already. The current Si Yihan wouldn't have a single ripple in his emotions for something like this anymore, judging from his apathetic attitude toward his mother. However, how could she allow these people to tarnish the most perfect and wonderful person to her? At this moment, someone suddenly looked at the entrance and released a quiet exclamation, "Wow, so pretty!" Soon, more and more exclamations were heard and the other people all turned to the entrance in confusion. At the end of the golden and resplendent hall, a girl stood there in a retro-style gown. The cuts of the gown were crisp and clean, but the details were extremely opulent. The color and style of this gown were only particularly suited for certain people. The purely hand-embedded pearls and shells dazzlingly glittered under the chandeliers. This was a gown that was eye-catching and luxurious to the point of stealing the thunder of its wearer, but on the girl, it didn't divert a single ray of light from her. The girl's skin was akin to the highest quality white jade, her lips akin to the clouds at sunrise, her hair black as ink. Her shimmering eyes looked like they reflected the vast sky. Even if she did nothing but stand there, she was as blazing and eye-catching as the scorching sun in the height of summer, pervadingly beautiful. In contrast, Qin Shiyuan's elegant ladylike and socialite demeanor turned her invisible. Qin Shiyuan naturally turned her attention to the entrance as well. When she saw the newcomer there, her expression shifted. That woman is... In the beginning, Qin Shiyuan's reaction was instinctive jealousy targeted at this woman's looks. Previously, Qin Shiyuan had only seen Yi Wanwan through photos she obtained and never saw the real person. Since the current Yi Wanwan was too different from her photo self, Qin Shiyuan didn't recognize her at first. In the end, it was her confidant female servant who reminded her. "Miss, isn't that woman Worryless Nye? Why is she here?" Qin Shiyuan was startled and only then did she recognize the woman. Worryless Nye? Most of Worryless Nye's photos were taken secretly in her daily life and she was dressed slovenly, so Qin Shiyuan couldn't link the woman in the photos to this woman in front of her. As for the other attendees of tonight's banquet, most of them didn't know Yi Wanwan, so their attention was wholly sucked by this strange woman. My God! Which family's daughter is she? I don't know. I've never seen her before. Oh my God, what kind of godly good looks are that? She actually outstripped Miss Qin, someone quietly said. Their friend also whispered in agreement. Miss Qin wasn't just outstripped. She was absolutely eclipsed. In Heng was also dumbstruck as he stared at the entrance. As Qin Shiyuan listened to the discussion around her, her sight landed on the girl. After a moment of scrutiny, Unconcealed derision and mockery surfaced in her eyes. How interesting. There were so many strays in this world, but these strays had no sense of their own limitations. There were some places that only people who possessed absolute status and power could enter. Yet, someone like Worryless Nye had the courage to attend a banquet of this level and act out a scene of a woman traversing thousands of miles to search for their husband. Qin Shiyuan was very willing to be an audience member and watch this clown's monodrama. Yin Yuerong's brows locked together as she stared at the girl at the entrance. Worryless Nye? Then she shook her head, confusion entering her expression. This girl might be very similar in looks, but her temperament made her appear to be a completely different person. This girl's temperament didn't belong to an ordinary person. Chapter 2302 Stealing the Limelight. The girl emitted a haughty aloofness from her bones, as though every living being was rejected from her world and nothing could enter her eyes. This aloofness didn't originate from an indifferent personality. It was as though there wasn't a person or object that she didn't look down on. Of course, this aura made people feel uncomfortable. And Yin Yuerong had once seen Worryless Nye from Yun City. She couldn't possess this kind of aura. Shit. Ninth brother. Quick, look at the door. What's going on? Isn't that ninth sister? Lin Kei's hand shuddered and half of his red wine spilled out. Only then did human emotion enter Si Yihan's face, and he immediately turned to the entrance. Next to them, Yu Xiao also looked at the entrance in disbelief. That's Miss Nye? Are you sure, Lin Kei? In his memory, whether it was Bro Flat Top or Worryless Nye, they both had the image of a demoness, so how could she be so elegant and graceful, beautiful to the point of intoxicating and bewitching all observers? In front of this girl, Qin Shiyuan, the supposed most beautiful woman of Tianshui City, lost all trace of color and presence. Furthermore, her looks and style of dress were secondary. The most important part was her standoffish aura. Just by standing there, even without using any expressions or body language, she already emanated intense derision for everything from her bones. If it was the president of the 12 Independent States Arbitration Council who possessed this aura, he could understand it, but Worryless Nye? Bullshit. Of course it probably is, right? As Lin Kei looked at the girl's exquisitely beautiful looks and coolly elegant temperament, he suddenly turned uncertain. At this moment, the girl's line of sight swept past them, and Lin Kei accidentally met her eyes. However, the girl's gaze didn't show any hint of recognition, as though Lin Kei was merely a stranger. No, he wasn't even a stranger, he was akin to air. Lin Kei was dumbfounded. She doesn't know me? Damn, what is this, huh? Who is she? How dare she look down on me like this? Lin Kei fumed with rage between gritted teeth. This was too infuriating. Si Yihan frowned lightly. He had met the girl's eyes for a second just now, but her gaze was that of someone looking at a stranger. He had a call with Wan just last night, and she was still in Yun City, so she couldn't have appeared here in such a short amount of time. Furthermore, she promised him that she absolutely wouldn't come to Tianshui City. He had also never seen Wan wearing such an unfamiliar expression with such a foreign mannerism. It was like she was a different person. Yin Yuerong didn't act rashly. Qin Shiyuan hated Worryless Nye to her bones though, yet that woman actually came here today to steal her limelight, so how could she tolerate it silently? The female servant quickly comforted her. Eldest miss, don't be angry. It's just a vixen with some degree of good looks. How could she compare to you? I'll kick her out right now. How dare she come to today's banquet? She's simply asking for humiliation. Qin Shiyuan's mouth curled up in a smirk. Are you saying that a random stray is worthy of being looked at by me? Eldest miss is right. She's just a stray who could lower the level of this type of event. Immediately, the female servant imperiously marched toward Yi Wan. You. The female servant blocked the girl's path and coldly stared at her. You're the second miss of Yun City's Nye family, right? The girl didn't say anything and acted like she didn't see the female servant blocking her path. Miss Nye, I'm very sorry, but this isn't a place someone with your status can enter casually. I think you should first determine the kind of status required to attend an occasion like this. However, the girl stayed put in her spot and treated the female servant as heir, completely disinclined to respond. The female servant sternly said, "Miss Nya, I know you're the second Miss of Yun City's Nya family, but this isn't a typical banquet. This is a banquet for the Arbitration Council's higher-ups. Normal people are absolutely prohibited from attending. If you're looking for someone, please wait outside until the banquet concludes. If you disturb any of the guests, I'm afraid even the entire Nya family couldn't handle the consequences." The female servant called a security guard over with a wave of her hand as she said, "Please leave immediately, Miss Nya. Otherwise, I have no choice but to have someone escort you out." However, an unbelievable scene occurred in the next second. The girl suddenly frowned and lifted her right arm. Before the female servant could react, a ruthless slap landed on her face. Slap. The crisp sound attracted everyone's attention. Qin Shiyuan's expression changed instantly. "This stray slapped my servant?" Qin Shiyuan's smile deepened. Yi Wanwan truly was a wild girl who had never seen the world, and ignorant people were fearless. Compensation for her slap would probably have to come from the entire Nya family. Nearby, Lin Kei was also jolted in fright. Was that woman mad? You had to look at the master before hitting the dog. Slapping a female servant wasn't a big deal, but this servant was the servant of the Arbitration Council's vice president's daughter. This kind of action in this kind of setting wasn't a personal matter anymore. It was equivalent to Yi Wanwan representing the Nya family and fiercely slapping the vice president of the Arbitration Council on the face. The consequence? Had she actually considered them? "Why you bitch? How dare you hit me?" The female servant angrily glared at the girl while clutching her face. "Annoying. Please get lost," Yi Wanwan said with a hint of irritation as she glanced at the female servant. "Security!" The female servant screamed. The next second, several formidable security guards appeared and surrounded the girl. However, there wasn't a trace of panic on the girl's face. Instead, she looked more aloof, as if she was watching a joke. "Stop!" Accompanying this harsh shout was Medusa striding into the hall. "What are you doing?" Medusa came from a rich and powerful clan in Tianshui City and was also Yi Lingjuan's disciple, so even the higher-ups of the Arbitration Council had to show her some courtesy. When the female servant saw Medusa, she stepped forward to explain at once. "Miss Sasa, this woman trespassed on this banquet and also hit me. I'm immediately ordering them to take her away." Medusa coldly repeated, "Take her away? She's my friend." "Your friend." The female servant immediately turned to Qin Shiyuan and after obtaining affirmation from Qin Shiyuan to proceed, her smile receded. "Miss Sasa, you should know what kind of occasion this is. By slapping me, it's the same as slapping our eldest Miss Qin. It's the same as slapping the vice president. Miss Sasa, I don't think you should be managing this type of minor matter. Also, I think you should instantly break ties with this kind of person. Otherwise, while it'd only be a minor matter if you provoked the vice president, it'd be major if you disgraced President E." Medusa laughed and was about to say something when gasps were heard in the crowd. "President E is here." "Hello, Sir President." At this moment, Yi Lingjun slowly walked down from upstairs in white robes. However, anyone paying close attention would notice his footsteps turning quicker. "President." When everyone saw Yi Lingjun, they were filled with deep veneration and looked at him as if they were gazing at a god. Soon, a person walked forward with a wine glass in hand. He greeted the president with a light chuckle. "President, long time no see." The speaker was Vice President Qin. Vice President Qin himself didn't expect President Yi to make a personal appearance at this banquet. "Hello, President." When Qin Shiyuan saw Yi Lingjun, she quickly walked up and greeted him. Yi Lingjun made a sound in response. When Yi Lingjun saw Vice President Qin about to say something else, he interrupted with a smile. "I mainly came here today to announce and handle something, so please excuse me." Vice President Qin nodded several times in succession. "You have to attend to numerous affairs every day, President, so please do as you need." Yi Lingjun soon walked onto the stage, his eyes sweeping over the room. The banquet hall turned quiet instantly without a decibel of noise. The main purpose of tonight's banquet was entertainment, but I still have to lower everyone's spirits a little, Yi Lingjun started. Nonsense, President, Vice President Qin said to Yi Lingjun with a chuckle. Yi Lingjun nodded. I believe everyone has heard of the incident in Yun City. At the mention of the Yun City incident, everyone was startled. Of course everyone knew about such a major incident, especially them, the higher-ups of the Arbitration Council. How could they be clueless? I remember Director Yin personally went there to handle this incident. Yi Lingjun turned to Yin Yuerong. That's indeed the case, President, Yin Yuerong admitted with a nod. The actions of Yun City's martial arts union was very outlandish, but they also serve as a reminder for us to consider whether some of the rules and regulations that have been passed down from ancient times in the independent state are reasonable and if we need to amend some of them, Yi Lingjun calmly said. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm everyone was shocked. The rules and regulations of the independent state were passed down from their esteemed ancestors, so how could they alter them? President, these rules. A higher-up hastily looked at Yi Lingjun and started speaking. However, Yi Lingjun merely glanced at the speaking higher-up. I haven't finished speaking. I hope you won't interrupt me a second time. Yes, Yi Lingjun continued. Some time ago, Director Si Yihan, sought me out and called into question some of the rules and regulations, and these questions were mainly concerning their unreasonableness. Si Yihan? Many higher-ups' gazes landed on Si Yihan. Yin Heng secretly sneered. Si Yihan was seriously gutsy and actually dared to question the independent state's rules and system and brought it up with President Yi. He was simply asking for his own death. It appeared President Yi mainly came here to criticize and perhaps even punish Si Yihan. Yin Yuerong's harsh gaze shot toward Si Yihan. Do you really think that, Director Si? The independent state's rules and systems since ancient times have guaranteed the continuity of the independent states. Amending the rules is an utter joke. That's right. Director Si, don't you think you're a bit too brazen? Yi Lingjun smiled faintly. After reviewing the suggested amendments that Director Si proposed, I wasn't opposed actually and even found him rather amiable. The higher-ups who were criticizing Si Yihan froze in their spots with dumbstruck expressions. President Yi hadn't come to criticize Si Yihan. Thank you very much, President Yi, Si Yihan responded. It appeared he was thinking too much earlier. Yi Lingjun wasn't the kind of person who practiced favoritism. All right, I will stop here regarding business matters. I'll leave the specific details to be discussed at the summit table. Of course, aside from this matter, I still have a personal matter to discuss. Yi Lingjun smiled faintly. It's regarding my daughter. Everyone was astonished. Although President Yi never married and no one heard anything about him having a relationship with any woman, there was always a rumor that Yi Lingjun had a precious daughter. Nobody took this rumor seriously, naturally, since a rumor was merely a rumor. Yin Yuerong looked at Yi Lingjun and said, There was always word on the street that you had a daughter, President Yi, but I never expected it to be true. After all, Yi Lingjun never married, so no one dared to go to Yi Lingjun and personally inquire about this kind of rumor. If it was false, wasn't it the same as slapping a label on the president of the Arbitration Council for no reason? Si Yihan turned pensive. During his visit with Yi Lingjun mentioned some details about his daughter of his own volition. As for Yi Wanwan, there wasn't any emotion on her face, but judgment filled her internally. If Yi Lingjun hadn't released this kind of information himself, who could have uncovered his private matters? Heh! Yi Lingjun smiled. I sent my daughter overseas when she was young, so she grew up and gained some accomplishments abroad. However, we previously had a small conflict and didn't contact each other for many years. Now that our conflict has resolved, we can finally meet again. After all, my daughter can't be far from me and missed me every second when she was thousands of miles away. As her father, I naturally also hope my daughter can return to her homeland and visit me often. Yi Wanwan, this old devil's bullshitting skills were seriously something. So what you're saying, President? A higher-up turned contemplative. There might not appear to be much to President Yi's words, and it was just trivial small talk on the surface, but that wasn't true. His main point was that he attached great importance to his daughter, and his daughter was accomplished and capable. Praising his own daughter at an occasion like this and allowing his daughter to make an appearance in such a ceremonious fashion. Could it be that he wanted to let his daughter enter the arbitration council and become powerful? Vice President Qin's expression turned rather bad. In the arbitration council, Yi Lingjun was undoubtedly the head and represented absolute power while he was the deputy. Vice President Qin was only below one person and above millions. If Yi Lingjun stepped down, he would get the opportunity to become the president. Now though, Yi Lingjun suddenly called his daughter back from abroad and said something like this. Even an idiot could tell that Yi Lingjun wanted to emphatically train his daughter. Could it be that he wanted to allow his daughter to ascend to his position in the future? Although every president was elected by the higher-ups, if Yi Lingjun was willing, it was entirely possible for him to push his daughter to be elected as the next president with his methods and prestige. After a moment of contemplation, Vice President Qin's expression returned to normal. This was merely his own conjecture and might not be the truth. It was also possible President Yi merely wanted to announce he had a daughter. Qin Shiyun looked at Yi Lingjun and quickly asked, "Sir President actually has a daughter? Then may I ask where his sister? Is she attending tonight's banquet? She must pay attention to President Yi's daughter and befriend her." "Yun Ma, why aren't you coming over here?" Yi Lingjun asked as he turned to the girl at the entrance. "Yes, father." The girl expressionlessly walked toward Yi Lingjun like no one else was present. Everyone's gazes instantly landed on that haughty girl who felt everything was beneath her dignity. When her bone-deep aloofness, disdain, and standoffish aura were paired with her alluring face, she was akin to a saintess who couldn't be violated. She didn't utter a sound but had already locked everything outside her doors. Qin Shiyuan's shocked gaze landed on the girl. This girl, wasn't she worryless Nye from Yun City's Nye family? How did she become Yi Lingjun's daughter? Wait, what did President Yi Lingjun just call her? Yunma. Furthermore, she was sent overseas by President Yi since she was young, so how could she be worryless Nye? However, what was the matter with her looks? Qin Shiyuan's servant was dumbstruck in her spot. As she watched the girl walking closer to the stage step by step, a trace of fear appeared on her face. This woman wasn't worryless Nye, she was President Yi's beloved daughter, Yunma. "Move!" The girl glanced at Qin Shiyuan, intense dislike surfacing in her eyes, but her expression remained bone-chilling. A single word caused him to feel like he had fallen into an ice pit. The dazed Qin Shiyuan was evidently startled. "You're blocking my way," the girl said apathetically. Faced with that tone, which allowed for no objection, and incomprehensible aura, Qin Shiyuan actually reflexively yielded for the girl. "Read more chapters at this novel." "Come damn. That's impossible, right? She isn't worryless Nye?" Lin K was stunned as he stared at the icy girl. "Ninth brother, what's going on? Isn't she ninth sister? That's impossible, right? Aren't her looks too similar? Wait, that also isn't right. How could ninth sister have such a terrifying aura? Her every move and gaze is too freaking scary." When she looked at Qin Shiyuan just now, she didn't treat Qin Shiyuan like a person. "She seriously isn't like ninth sister." Lin K murmured. "It's not just Qin Shiyuan. I feel like she doesn't consider anyone here an actual person aside from President Yi Lingjun. She's too arrogant and conceited." Yu Xiao frowned deeply. In all his life, he had never met such a condescending woman. He could tell from a single glance that she wasn't easy company. Damn. It's superiority emanating from her bones, all right? Her aura is too similar to ninth brother's, right? No, wait, it's 100 times, no, 1,000 times, more than ninth brother's. Lin K said. Ninth brother's superiority was restrained inside while that woman didn't conceal hers in the slightest. Si Yihan coolly glanced at Lin Quebec. "Ninth brother, that's not what I mean. I'm saying that girl is too much." Lin K explained himself immediately. As In Yuerong watched the girl slowly walking toward Yi Lingjun, confusion entered her eyes. In Yun City, she met Worryless Nye herself. Worryless Nye was very pretty indeed, but she didn't fully brandish her beauty. This girl was completely different and paraded her beauty to the last centimeter. Furthermore, Worryless Nye didn't have any aura worth mentioning. This girl, though, the aloof aura she emanated could only be from every fiber of her being. It was as if she was destined to become a superior leader since she was born. The bone-deep apathy she displayed when she looked at people didn't seem to be feigned. This girl was stunningly beautiful, but her personality appeared to be immensely prideful and icy. Aside from her father, she looked down on everyone. Thankfully, she didn't act rashly earlier. But In Yuerong still retained her suspicions. How could there be two people who looked this identical in the world? Could it be that there was something odd about this? Was this girl actually President Yi's daughter? Could it be that she was Worryless Nye? Father! The girl walked up the stage and looped her arm around Yi Lingjun's arm. Only then did the apathy in her eyes recede a little and turn into gentleness. Good daughter. Introduce yourself to everyone, Yi Lingjun said in good spirits. The girl glanced at everyone and said, Father, I don't think that's necessary. The prerequisite for me introducing myself is that there should be someone I would like to befriend and get to know. Apologies, Father, but I haven't found someone like that yet. Yun Ma, don't be so insensible, Yi Lingjun said. The girl was indifferent. Father, you should know that I've never been sensible since I was young. Sigh. I'm very sorry, everyone. My darling daughter was pampered and spoiled since childhood and might still be unfamiliar with this kind of occasion. Please don't take it to heart, Yi Lingjun said with an exasperated expression, but there wasn't a hint of reproach in his eyes. A higher-up vehemently shook his head and hastily said, Nonsense, President. Miss Yun Ma has an extraordinary aura and doesn't behave like normal people and has her own personality. It's very uncommon to see a girl that's self-aware with such strong views anymore. That's right. Director Gao is right. I think that someone with this type of personality must be impartial, incorruptible, and very well suited for entering the arbitration council and holding an important position. All the directors started agreeing and lauding her at the same time. The attention that was originally directed toward Qin Shiyuan also shifted instantly. An older director asked with an apparently casual air, President, since your daughter is so outstanding, she must be taken already, right? A person nearby also said, Sigh, I wonder who has the good fortune of obtaining Miss Yi's favor. Yi Lingjun glanced at his daughter and responded, Heh, I wish there was someone by her side to take care of her, but unfortunately, she hasn't encountered anyone she likes yet. In other words, she didn't have a boyfriend yet? President Yi's daughter, his sole precious daughter, was actually still single. Many people's eyes brightened when they heard this news. Yi Wanwan remained haughty when faced with everyone's concern and goodwill. However, Yi Lingjun was closest to her and didn't miss her little glances. Yi Lingjun cleared his throat and continued to chat with everyone while imperceptibly leaning close to Yi Wanwan's ears and whispering, Good daughter. Restrain yourself a little. Restrain what? Yi Wanwan asked. Your gazes toward Director C. What's wrong with me looking at my man? If you look any more, you'll drop your disguise. Don't worry, I won't drop it. I'm someone whose closet is filled with disguises. Don't underestimate me. Anyway, she couldn't be faulted for this. She truly couldn't help herself since Siyihan was seriously too handsome today. Perhaps it was because tonight's banquet was rather important, so Siyihan wore a luxurious formal suit on this rare occasion. The heartache-inducing fatigue on his face didn't impact his looks at all and actually amplified his allure. Yi Lingjun led Yi Wanwan from the stage into the crowd. A sharp glint flitted through his eyes before he regained his fatherly expression and heavily said, To be quite honest, my greatest trouble right now is dealing with Yunma's marriage. However, this child's taste is too picky and truly makes my head hurt. These words were no doubt a stone evoking thousands of ripples. Anyone with an iota of intelligence could understand him. President Yi probably hastily brought Yunma back to recruit a husband for his daughter, didn't he? President, what are you saying? Your daughter is so beautiful and capable, so it's more than normal for her to have higher standards. After all, the man will be her companion for the rest of her life, so of course she has to choose carefully. That's right. There are so many handsome and talented youths in Tianshui City and quite a few came today, so Miss Qin can take her time getting to know them. The young men who were fawning over Qin Shiyuan moments ago immediately fluttered toward them. A suave man wearing a light gray suit asked in a gentlemanly manner, "Miss Yi, allow me to introduce myself. I am one of the directors in the Arbitration Council. I was born and have lived in Tianshui City all my life, so I'm very familiar with Tianshui City. You've just returned, so if you need a guide of any sort, I'm always willing to serve you." When the other people saw this man recommending himself, they all couldn't sit still and swarmed forward to make conversation. "Miss Yi's taste is truly splendid. Your outfit is seriously too beautiful." Many older higher-ups also struck up a conversation with Yi Lingjun. "President, my son has also been abroad for many years, so perhaps he'll find some common ground with your daughter." "Oh, is that so?" Yi Lingjun didn't reject anyone and politely chatted with each and every one of them, looking as if he was really seriously choosing a husband for his daughter. Yi Wanwan was at a loss for words. Could it be that he was really preparing to matchmake her? Why was he asking so seriously? Yi Lingjuan's attitude demonstrated that he basically wanted the whole world to be in chaos. Yi Wanwan retained her cold and haughty persona and frowned. "Father, I'm going over there." A beautiful woman was extremely beautiful even when she frowned. The irritation in her eyes was like the dew-dropped thorns on a rose, and all the gentlemen around her were mesmerizingly dazed. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yunma immediately inquired in concern, "What is it, Yunma? Do you feel unwell?" "The air here is bad." Yi Wanwan randomly tossed those words behind her and sauntered away in her high heels. In other words, she didn't like how loud this place was. Yi Lingjun exasperatedly said, "This child. Her personality is simply too unsociable." Although her tone and the way she spoke made many people displeased, no one dared to comment on it. After all, Yunma wasn't targeting a single person and was targeting everyone. No one would stick their head out first to reason with her. Instead, her personality was arrogant like a raging inferno and haughty like a frosty glacier, evoking the desire in many men to conquer her. Qin Shiyuan was beautiful but lacked a unique personality. She was akin to a fresh flower meticulously nurtured in a greenhouse. Furthermore, whether it was looks or family background, Qin Shiyuan and Yunma were from completely different levels and couldn't be compared. It appeared that from today onward, the titles of Tianshui City's #1 socialite and #1 beauty would both change hands. It was uncertain whether it was intentional or accidental. But Yi Wanwan just happened to walk toward Yin Heng and Qin Shiyuan. The girl stepped closer and closer, her aura and stunning looks captivating everyone she passed. Like every man present, Yin Heng involuntarily tightened his grasp around his wine glass. Yin Heng watched as the girl approached him and he stepped forward, courteously raising his glass toward her. "Miss Yi, my name is Yin Heng. I'm Director Yin Yuerong's son." However, the girl treated Yin Heng like air and acted like she didn't see or hear him. The other guests were naturally witnesses to Yin Heng being ignored and discussion ran rampant again. PFT, he actually got ignored. That's a man Miss Qin took a fancy to, but Yunma didn't even look at him. Please. Miss Yi's standards must be much higher than Miss Qin's. What's weird about that? The slightly embarrassed Yin Heng could only smile cordially and withdraw his cup, pretending not to care. As Qin Shiyuan listened to the chatter around her, her expression turned darker, and displeasure entered her eyes as she looked at Yin Heng. "What? You're getting ideas?" Qin Shiyuan glanced at Yin Heng. Yin Heng was briefly startled before promptly shaking his head. He calmly replied, "Miss Qin, she's President Yi's daughter after all, so it'd be within my duty to toast to her. As for how she responds, that's unrelated to me." As a man, he was naturally more attracted by women like Yunma. However, Yunma towered after the heavens and she was someone he could gaze at but couldn't touch. On the other hand, Qin Shiyuan was a sure shot already. There was no way he would offend Qin Shiyuan because of Yunma under these circumstances. You're rather good with your words. Qin Shiyuan harumphed. How could she be clueless about Yin Heng's thoughts? She was originally supposed to be the sole focus today and enjoy the coveting gazes of all the attending men. However, she never expected Yunma to drop from the sky or all the men circling her a second ago to all swarm toward Yunma. Instead, Yin Heng was no exception. Many higher-ups of the arbitration council were itching to give Yi Wanwan a shot, but no one dared to strike up a conversation with Yi Lingjuan's precious daughter. Read more chapters at List Novel. This kind of person was chilly like an ice block and looked down on every living being present. Conversing with her would be a masochistic act. Ninth brother, she should be ninth sister, right? Aside from identical twins, there can't be two people who look exactly the same in this world, Lin Ke asked Si Yihan, confusion brimming on his face. Si Yihan's gaze settled on the girl, but he remained silent. Si Yihan immensely venerated and admired the president of the arbitration council, Yi Lingjun, and didn't think Yi Lingjun would lie and deceive everyone. However, his instincts told him that girl couldn't possibly be some Yunma person. Hence, there could only be two explanations. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Yi Lingjun previously mentioned that he became estranged and lost contact with his daughter, Yunma, many years ago. It was possible that Yi Wanwan employed some kind of method to fool Yi Lingjun and became Yunma. The other possibility was that President Yi Lingjun was truly deceiving every single one of them. However, why? After exchanging some conventional greetings with everyone, he immediately ran off to find his precious daughter. Why were you talking for so long? Yi Wanwan grumbled bemoaningly. Aren't I here now? Good daughter, what is it? Do you finally need father's help for something? Yi Lingjun asked with anticipation. Yi Wanwan bobbed her head eagerly. I do. Hurry and introduce me to Si Yihan. I think you're the one who has a split personality, right, good daughter? Thank you, thank you. I'm merely surpassing the one who taught me. Yi Lingjun. Director Si. Yi Lingjun shouted, breaking Si Yihan out of his contemplation. Si Yihan nodded lightly and walked toward Yi Lingjun, involuntarily glancing at the girl standing next to Yi Lingjun. President, Si Yihan greeted him. Director Si, I will consider your earlier suggestion. Young people should be more courageous anyway, and it's not a bad thing for you to develop ideas that are ahead of your time, Yi Lingjun said with a smile. Thank you for your support, President, Si Yihan replied. Oh right, let me introduce you. This is my daughter, Yunma. Yi Lingjun pointed at Yi Wanwan next to him. When Yin Heng saw this scene, his brows locked together and a shadow enveloped his eyes. Why was President Yi introducing his daughter to Si Yihan? He finally managed to gain Qin Shiyuan's favor with great difficulty. If Si Yihan sank his claws into Yunma, everything would be wrecked. Miss Yi. Si Yihan looked at Yi Wanwan, his frosty face not revealing any change in emotions as though he was wearing a mask. His austere and unworldly aura permeated the air around him. Yi Wanwan merely glanced at Si Yihan and looked away without a single response. However, this was what played out in her mind. So handsome. Why is he dressed so nicely today? It's not like I can strip him right now. Control yourself. Your persona can't collapse. When Yin Heng, who was a little nervous moments ago, saw this, he inwardly sneered, derision and mockery brimming from his eyes. Yunma was haughty to the bone and considered everyone else beneath her, so how could she respond favorably to Si Yihan? Who cared about how capable or outstanding Si Yihan was? His taste was too pitiful and he just had to ruin everything because of a woman. Otherwise, he'd truly be at a loss if Si Yihan managed to attach himself to Qin Shiyuan. As for Yunma, her appearance was incredibly surprising, but she evidently didn't have any intention of befriending any of the guests, so it wouldn't impact anything. He would still stomp Si Yihan beneath his feet in the end. Yi Lingjun looked at Yi Wanwan and unwittingly chuckled. Her pretense was pretty on point. She was truly worthy of being his disciple and daughter, inheriting a pinch of his capabilities. At this moment, melodious music started playing, and the banquet formally began. Miss Qin Xin, may I invite you for a dance? Soon, many young men from the arbitration council approached Qin Shiyuan with the desire to ask her for a dance. Although Qin Shiyuan came with Yin Heng, many people were unwilling to give up. As for Yun Ma, after the series of failures just now, nearly everyone gave up and was settling for second best. No need. I have a dance partner already. Thank you. Qin Shiyuan courteously rejected them with a faint smile on her face. Miss Qin Shiyuan's dance partner is naturally Yin Heng. Everyone couldn't help but look toward Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng. The corners of Yin Heng's lips turned up, his aura impressive. The couple attracted many people's gazes. People watched as Yin Heng courteously extended his hand toward Qin Shiyuan. Upon seeing everyone's attention focused on her again, Qin Shiyuan's expression finally eased, and she gracefully placed her hand on Yin Heng's hand. Qin Shiyuan had an elite education since she was young, so she was like a fish in the water at this kind of social function. She was fairly superb at the waltz and shared a rather tacitly matched dance with Yin Heng, winning a round of applause from the crowd. They really are a handsome couple made in heaven. Sigh, Yin Heng has the elegant demeanor and the looks, and he's also the future successor of the Yin family, so it's really hard to compete with him. Take a look at Director C. He chased after Miss Qin Shiyuan for a long time, but she completely ignored him. In the end, it was Yin Heng who succeeded. Director C must not feel good having to watch Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng dance, right? Didn't you see? Yin knows he doesn't have any hope with Qin Shiyuan. He couldn't even win against Yin Heng but actually wanted to befriend Yun Ma just now. What ridiculous joke is that? Even Miss Qin Shiyuan looks down on him, not to mention someone of Yun Ma's status. Does he really think he can make every woman fall in love with him relying solely on his face? It wasn't just women, men could also be jealous. Yihen usurped such a high position in the arbitration council out of nowhere and became the youngest director in all of the arbitration council's history, and his looks had captured nearly all the hearts of every socialite in the city. Moreover, Yihen always traversed alone and didn't befriend anyone, so there were naturally many people who secretly disliked him. Now that those people saw how Qin Shiyuan was stolen from him by his brother, they were naturally rejoicing in his misfortune. I doubt Yun Ma considered him a person at all. Someone with her kind of personality considers themselves a god and looks down on everyone. Even now, not a single person dares to invite her to dance with them. It wasn't that no one wanted to befriend Yun Ma and share a dance with her. It was just that no one had the guts. Yun Ma's aura was too overbearing and apathetic to the extreme. A person like Yun Ma was disdainful of even conversing with other people. So wouldn't they be asking for humiliation if they invited her to dance? Soon, Yin Heng and Qin Shiyuan started whirling around the dance floor. The handsome couple attracted nearly everyone's attention, eliciting envy in their watchers. Yin Heng imperceptibly glanced at Yihen, provocation in his eyes. On the other hand, Qin Shiyuan's gaze toward Yihen was filled with derision, clearly asking, "Do you regret it now, Director C?" Sigh, what an ideal couple they are. They seriously match each other perfectly. How nice would it be if it were me who was dancing with eldest Miss Qin? I actually want to dance with Miss E more. Keep dreaming. I also think I'm dreaming. Following everyone's chatter and admiration, someone noticed Yun Ma suddenly slowly walking toward the alone Yihen. When Yihen noticed the approacher, he imperceptibly peered up, his icy gaze shooting toward the girl, but he promptly looked away as if he didn't notice. Everyone thought Yun Ma was merely passing by on her way to the desserts. However, what caused their jaws to drop was, when Yun Ma reached Yihen, she stopped and sat down on the high stool next to Yihen. The corners of Yihen's eyes turned up minutely. At that moment, there were many empty spots around Yihen. With Yun Ma's personality, she was fully capable of going to an empty spot without anyone around, but she just had to sit next to Yihen. Perhaps she randomly found a place to sit? As everyone thought that, The girl unabashedly looked at the man next to her and greeted him aloofly, "Director C, nice to meet you." The attention focused on Yin Heng and Qin Shiyuan dissipated almost instantly and latched onto Yi Wanwan instead. Everyone was astonished. Yunma initiated a conversation with Si Yihan just now. A glint flickered and quickly disappeared in Si Yihan's eyes. He opened his mouth and replied, "Nice to meet you." Si Yihan didn't say anything else and probingly assessed the girl as if wanting to figure out her intention. The girl retained her indifferent expression and tone. "Do you know how to dance, Director C?" Si Yihan was startled. "A little." Yi Wanwan expressionlessly continued, "Let's dance together?" Si Yihan, everyone? If people were able to forcefully explain this situation as Yunma casually greeting Si Yihan earlier, they were now uniformly dumbstruck. The condescending Yunma took the initiative to invite Si Yihan to a dance? Nearby, Yi Lingjuan's face was as dark as the underside of a pan. Couldn't she have lasted a little longer? The sight of Yi Wanwan's shattered table surfaced in Medusa's mind and she cleared her throat. She lasted a few minutes at least and controlled her expression. It was very difficult already. Yiling, how hard it must have been on her. No one had a stronger reaction than Yin Heng. He missed several steps and accidentally stepped on Qin Shiyuan's feet. Qin Shiyuan bore the pain and glared at Yin Heng. Only then did Yin Heng listlessly look away, but his mind had evidently drifted from the dance. He never would have expected Yunma to start a conversation with Si Yihan. She even invited Si Yihan to dance. Si Yihan seemed to be stunned by the girl's invitation and turned silent without answering. Yi Wanwan wasn't impatient though and maintained her icy face. Not a flaw or emotion could be seen from the duo's faces, and the originally outspoken crowd fell into a strange silence. A moment later, Si Yihan finally responded, "Apologies, Miss E, but I don't feel well today." Everyone. He rejected her? Si Yihan actually rejected her? Was he mad? Is Director C serious? He actually rejected Yunma? If he even looks down on the president's daughter, just how high are his standards? Only a goddess could obtain his liking, right? When Yin Yuerong saw his son rejecting Yunma, she nearly spewed out blood in her anger. She was blasé when his son told her he didn't like Qin Shiyuan and thought he was merely young and ignorant. She never expected him to dislike Yunma too. Everyone's eyebrows were raised. It's obvious Yunma isn't someone to be trifled with. I wager Si Yihan is probably in trouble this time. My popcorn is ready. Forget about them, but Lin Kei and Yu Xiao were also drenched in sweat. They might suspect this woman's identity, but her current identity was Yi Lingjuan's daughter and she wasn't a benevolent character. Yu Xiao didn't dare to watch anymore while Lin Kei secretly pounded his chest and stomped his feet. Ninth brother, he actually rejected her this publicly? Couldn't he have showed her an ounce of courtesy? Anyway, ninth sister isn't here and won't see or know. Everyone waited for Yunma to blow her fuse and humiliate Si Yihan, but Yunma didn't appear to be angry in the slightest regarding Si Yihan's rejection. She merely nodded lightly in understanding before asking, "You don't mind me sitting here, right? Read more chapters at List Novel." Calm, of course not. Yi Wanwan then raised her hand and a nearby waiter quickly sprinted over and cautiously asked, "Miss E, what is your request?" It was over. Miss E was surely about to erupt in rage. Yi Wanwan glanced at the red wine in front of Si Yihan. "Take away Director C's wine." The waiter was bewildered. Miss E, you're saying, what did she mean by taking away Director C's wine? Yi Wanwan's domineering tone didn't allow any room for objection. Replace it with a calming remedy ginseng soup. The waiter, Yi Wanwan frowned and added, "The temperature is too low. Director C doesn't feel well, so bring a blanket over." The waiter, Si Yihan, everyone, Yi Wanwan's series of signature, domineering CEO maneuvers successfully dumbfounded everyone. Qin Shiyuan finally couldn't keep dancing due to Yin Heng constantly stepping on her feet, and she fiercely glared at him. However, Inheng didn't have any presence of mind to comfort the complaining Qin Shiyuan and was incredulously staring at the duo in the distance. Under the resplendent lights, the girl's eyes were as gorgeous as the northern lights. Sitting next to the aloof Si Yihan, they enhanced each other's beauty. Two similarly icy people should be awkward when placed together no matter how you looked at it, but they gave others a sense of inexplicable harmony. Just what in the world did Yunma mean? Didn't she think it was beneath her to speak to Si Yihan earlier? Why did her attitude toward him change so drastically all of a sudden? Of course, Qin Shiyuan was nowhere near pleased. She just made the claim that it was Si Yihan who chased after her and she didn't like him. Now though, Si Yihan rejected even the president's daughter. How could anyone with a pair of eyes believe her words now? As Qin Shiyuan expected, some people realized the inconsistency. Actually, there were rumors that it was Qin Shiyuan who pursued Si Yihan but was rejected. I originally didn't believe it and found it impossible, but now I kinda believe it. After all, he rejected even Yunma. Say, do you think Director C doesn't even like women? I don't think so. I heard he has a fiancée. She's the second miss of Yun City's Nye family. Other people became reverent. That second miss must be a goddess, right? The waiter finally shook off his stupor and didn't dare to delay it anymore. He quickly left to prepare the ginseng soup and blanket. Yi Wanwan was about to say something when Yi Lingjun walked over with a fatherly expression on his face. He lightly laid his hand on Yi Wanwan's shoulder and said, "Yunma, come with me. Father will introduce some friends to you." Yi Lingjun, little girl. If you don't restrain yourself, you'll seriously drop your disguise. Yi Wanwan unhappily clicked her tongue internally but knew she shouldn't overdo it. And so Yi Wanwan turned to Si Yihan and apathetically said, "Excuse me, Director C." Soon she followed Yi Lingjun and left. Not long after Yi Wanwan left, Lin Kei and Yu Xiao came running over. Lin Kei still looked frightened. "Damn, that scared me to death, that scared me to death. Ninth brother, what's going on?" Yunma's reaction was scarier than her losing her temper on the spot. Yu Xiao furtively suggested, perhaps she purely wanted to show some concern? Lin Kei looked at Yu Xiao like he was an idiot. If it was someone else, if it was anyone else here today, that might be possible. But it was Yunma. Look at her condescending demeanor and how she won't even waste her words on anyone. Do you think she would show concern for a person out of boredom? Yu Xiao stared at him. What do you think was the reason then? Lin Kei? He didn't dare to say? Lin Kei turned to Si Yihan. "Ninth brother, say something." Si Yihan glanced at Lin Kei from the corner of his eyes. "Say what? Yunma took a liking to me?" "You said it yourself, all right? I didn't say anything. It's the truth that your face attracts too many admirers. You can't fault me for thinking wildly." Lin Kei took a gulp. "Ninth brother, I'm about to go crazy. Just how is this woman connected to Ninth sister? How about you give her a call right now and ask?" Si Yihan glanced at Lin Kei again. If Wanwan is sincerely trying to conceal herself from me, she would have made preparations beforehand, and we couldn't weasel out any truths even if we called her. Si Yihan paused and continued, "If Yunma isn't Wanwan, then my phone call." Sweat-drenched Lin Kei when he heard that. "If she isn't, then you'd be startling the snake. Ninth sister will find out you're attracting admirers again. You'll be dead for sure then. Ninth brother, you're far better at thinking ahead. You're too impressive." When Yu Xiao heard this, he also nodded frantically. "However, sir, what should we do now?" Yu Xiao cautiously inquired. Director C. The waiter's footsteps were heard at this moment. The waiter was very efficient indeed and quickly sent over the ginseng soup and blanket. "I'm truly sorry, Director C. There wasn't any ginseng soup prepared for this banquet, so we sent our people to the best hotel in Tianshui City to obtain some." The waiter's attitude towards Si Yihan had completed a 180, and he spoke attentively. Si Yihan nodded and dismissed the waiter. After the waiter left, Si Yihan flicked open the lid of the ginseng soup before glancing at Yu Xiao and saying, "We'll wait and see." They did have a few methods to test who she actually was. On the other side, Yi Lingjun finally Yi Wanwan dragged away. To shift her focus and prevent her from flying around unrestrained, he led her around a gathering of higher-ups. Although Yunma's attitude just now made everyone slack-jawed, it also ignited many people's hopes again. It turned out Yunma wasn't ignoring everyone. It meant they also had a chance. In addition, Yi Lingjun was personally introducing people to her and creating opportunities, so many people approached her again. A director furtively offered an invitation. "Miss Yi, you seem to like dancing. May I have the honor of dancing with you?" "I'm uninterested," Yi Wanwan replied. The director was startled, embarrassment creeping onto his face. "But you personally invited someone to dance with you minutes ago? Why are you uninterested now?" He thought Yunma liked to dance at least, but who would have expected her to straightforwardly say she was uninterested and regain her haughty demeanor, read more chapters at list novel. Wasn't this preferential treatment too obvious? Currently Yi Wanwan was thinking, like your ass. What I like is the person who'd dance with me, alright? An older higher-up led a fair and pretty youth over to Yi Lingjun and said with a grin, "President, this is my son. He's a devoted fan of yours and attends every seminar you hold. Miss Yi, you've just returned to Tianshui City and don't know many people. If you get bored, you can call him anytime. My son might not be good at much, but he's attentive and thoughtful." Yi Wanwan reflexively surveyed the youth. He was a clean-shaven, fairly young man. He seemed fairly innocent in the ways of the world, so his eyes were very clear and his appearance comforted the viewer. However, as the youth listened to his father, his eyes brimmed with despair and humiliation. He was clearly forced and was unwilling to do this. When Yi Wanwan saw the youth's gaze, she inexplicably felt something was amiss. Why was this scene so familiar? At a banquet, an immoral father tried to send his daughter to a domineering CEO's bed in order to gain said CEO's favor. Did she grab the wrong script? Yi Wanwan was aghast and hastily halted those terrifying thoughts. Nearby, Siyihan also watched the scene of men of all sorts surrounding Yi Wanwan and courting her. When the higher-up saw Yi Wanwan's gaze landing on his son and surprisingly not looking displeased, hope ignited in his heart, and he advertised his son with increased enthusiasm. "A young, hurry and introduce yourself to Miss Yi." The higher-up shoved his son. The youth named Ung had his lips tightly pursed and his complexion looked ghastly pale as he stood unmoving in his spot. The higher-up turned anxious. "Why are you foolishly standing there?" The youth pushed his father away. "Sorry, I have something to do. Please excuse me." The higher-up nearly stomped his feet in anger upon seeing his son dashing away. He hastily turned to Yi Wanwan and apologized. "I'm truly sorry, Miss. This child is a bit introverted and shy with strangers." Yi Wanwan casually replied, "He has quite the character. Someone who could remain this frank in the independent state and especially within a circle like the Arbitration Council was truly a rare sight." The higher-up didn't know whether Yi Wanwan's remark was a compliment or an insult, so he laughed it off and kept apologizing. However, seeing that Missy didn't look angry and said his son had character, she probably was satisfied to some degree, right? That punk was too impertinent, but the higher-up had plenty of methods to make him submit. He just had to tie that punk up later and send him over to Miss Yi. His term of office was nearing its end and he might be replaced next term. It would be difficult to ingratiate himself with President Yi, but if he could gain Yunma's favor, he'd be able to rest easy. Throughout the entire night, in order to ensure that Yi Wanwan didn't have time to seek out Siyihan, Yi Lingjun acted like a butterfly. He forcefully pulled her and fluttered all over the venue. Yi Wanwan finally made it to the end of the banquet. Luxurious cars filled the entrance of the venue and all the prominent figures and higher-ups began to leave. Yi Wanwan looked around the crowd, but there were too many people, and she couldn't find a trace of Siyihan. Yi Wanwan angrily glared at Yi Lingjun. Yi Lingjun raised his brows. "Why are you glaring at me, huh? Look at how pitiful you are. He publicly rejected you earlier, alright?" Yi Wanwan wasn't irked by that and started gloating instead. "So what if he rejected me? My darling is seriously too handsome when he rejects me, alright?" Yi Lingjun. Although he couldn't stand watching his little disciple being utterly bewitched by and infatuated with a man, Si Yihan performed rather well tonight. He actually declined such an alluring temptation. Yi Lingjun saw him in a new light. They had to act out the whole play, so Yi Lingjun had arranged a place for Yi Wanwan to stay already. Yi Wanwan was waiting for a car to pick her up as she searched for Si Yihan. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh light novel. In the night, she was merely standing there casually, but she was dazzling like the sun, making people unable to look away. "Miss?" A man's voice drifted from behind Yi Wanwan, and she reflexively looked behind her. In Heng was standing there. When faced with people the girl didn't care about, she didn't seem to have the desire to utter a single word. The ignored In Heng's expression quickly returned to normal. He began, "Hello, Miss Yi, I didn't have time to introduce myself earlier. I'm In Heng, Director C's adopted brother." At the sound of Director C's adopted brother, the girl finally spared him a glance. In Heng apologized. "Miss Yi, my elder brother has a peculiar personality and is hard to get along with. If he offended you in any way earlier, please forgive him, Miss Yi." In Heng's tone shifted and he explained, "My elder brother has a fiancée already. I heard she's very controlling and also has a disagreeable disposition, which is why my elder brother rejected your invitation, to avoid causing a misunderstanding." In Heng chuckled and added, Of course, my elder brother was overthinking too much. Why would you have that kind of intention toward my elder brother?" Before In Heng could finish speaking, the girl nonchalantly glanced at him. "What if I said I did?" In Heng. Late at night, in the ancestral In residence, after arriving home, In Yuerong stripped off her jacket and entered her bedroom. "Madam, you're back." The housekeeper quickly welcomed her and took the jacket from her before pouring her a cup of tea intended to dissipate the effects of alcohol. In Yuerong normally had a very old-fashioned style of dress and perpetually wore the same outfits. However, since tonight's function was fairly important, she dressed a little more ceremoniously and donned a black evening gown. Although her outfit was extremely simple and she didn't adorn any accessories, it didn't affect her beauty and elegance at all. The housekeeper looked at her master and inwardly sighed. If it weren't for her master's obsession running too deep with her master's qualities, she could be protected and cherished by someone, possessing a fulfilling marriage. "Madam, what happened?" The housekeeper couldn't help but inquire with great concern when she saw In Yuerong remaining in deep thought ever since her return. In Yuerong took a sip of the tea before replying, "President Yi introduced a person to us today." "Who?" "His daughter, Yunma." "What? Daughter? President Yi has a daughter?" The housekeeper was astonished. In Yuerong explained the night's situation simply and revealed an amused expression as she asked, "What do you think?" The housekeeper looked bewildered. "So you're saying, madam, that President Yi's daughter actually resembles Worryless Nye that closely? How could such a coincidence occur in this world?" After the housekeeper said that, she recalled that Yunma was personally brought there and introduced by President Yi and became uncertain. She hesitatingly asked, "However, their demeanors are utterly different and it was President Yi who personally announced this, so there shouldn't be anything off about this. Perhaps they merely resemble each other? That's not impossible." In Yuerong chuckled. "What you're saying is correct. Hence, no one doubted that woman's identity during the banquet tonight. Even Agio thought she was Yunma." The housekeeper turned to her master. "Madam, could it be you're saying you don't think that woman is Yunma and she's being impersonated by Worryless Nye instead?" The housekeeper didn't dare to finish her sentence. In Yuerong's eyes glinted. "First, I saw Worryless Nye myself. The fact that there are two such similar-looking people in this world and these two people just had to be Worryless Nye and Yunma, isn't that too coincidental? Second, President Yi said that he lost contact with his daughter for many years and only reunited with her recently. So how does he know whether Yunma is being impersonated by Worryless Nye or not?" The housekeeper turned uncertain after hearing that. "But, impersonating the president's daughter? Does that woman truly have the guts?" Moreover, this isn't an easy matter. You can't just impersonate the president's daughter simply because you want to. In Yuerong snorted. Auntie Chiao, I'm afraid you're underestimating that woman too much. She's disguised herself under so many identities, and each identity has a fairly decent status. Plus, she managed to coax and deceive Agio so much that he completely obeys her. Do you really think she's merely an impulsive and brainless girl? The housekeeper was incredulous and exclaimed in shock. Could it be that worryless Nye saw you were trying to stop her marriage with young master, so she conjured this plan and transformed into President Yi's daughter? In Yuerong snorted again. I'm afraid her ambitions aren't solely limited to Agio. The housekeeper shook with fear the more she listened and asked, should I immediately send people to investigate her? That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.